Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Jai Om Shabbat Paramahams Parivajacharya Stottar Shatashishima. His Divine Grace Love Bhajana Arvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. His Convey Founder Acharya Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Shabbat Paramahams Parivajacharya Stottar Shatashishima. His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Jai. Namacharya Shravidas Thakur Ki Jai. हमसे कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद जय श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन जय ब्रज में वृंदावन धाम की जय नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय गंगा माई की जय जमुना माई की जय भक्ति देवी की जय तुलसी महारानी की जय समावेत भक्त वृंद की जय गौर प्रमाण all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, chapter number 9 and text number 36. This is the last of Chatushloki Bhagavatam and it has very, very elaborate purport of 14 pages. And he wants me to finish in half an hour. Let's try our best. Etavat eva jigyasyam tattva jigyasuna atmanaha anvaya vyatirekabhyam yat syat sarvatra sarvada etavadevam जिज्ञास्यम् तत्व जिज्ञासुनात्मनः अन्वय व्यतिरेकाभ्याम् यत् स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा एतावदेवं जिज्ञास्यम् तत्व जिज्ञासुनात्मनः अन्वय व्यतिरेकाभ्याम् यत् स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा एतावदेवं जिज्ञास्यम् तत्व जिज्ञासुनात्मनः अन्वय व्यतिरेकाभ्याम् स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा
एतावत् एव जिज्ञासम् तत्त्वा जिज्ञासु आत्मना अन्वया वैति काव्यम् यत् स्यात् सर्वथा सर्वदा
एतावदेव जिज्ञास्यम् तत्त्वा जिज्ञासु आत्मनः अन्वय व्यतिरेकाभ्याम् यत् स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा
एतावदेव जिज्ञासम् तत्त्वजिज्ञासुनात्मनः अन्वय व्यतिरेकाभ्याम् यत् स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा
एतावदेव जिज्ञास्यम् तत्त्वजिज्ञासुनात्मनः अन्वय व्यतिरेकाभ्याम्
सर्वत्र सर्वदा
एतावत् एव जिज्ञास्यम्
एतावदेव जिज्ञास्यम्
तत्त्वजिज्ञास्वात्मना
तत्त्वजिज्ञास्वात्मनः
अन्वया व्यतिरेकाभ्यम् यत् स्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा
यस्यात् सर्वत्र सर्वदा
Etavat,
एतावत्
up to this, eva, certainly, jigyasyam is to be inquired. Tattva, the absolute truth. Jigyasuna, by the student. Atmanaha, of the self. Anvaya, directly. Vitirekabhyam, indirectly. Yat, whatever. Syat, it may be. Sarvatra, in all space and time. Sarvada, in all circumstances. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. A person who is searching after the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, most certainly search for it up to this, in all circumstances, in all space of time, and both directly and indirectly. This is very important because it indicates this is the conclusion. But it is up to the individual. He may have direct experience by pure devotional service and indirect by empirical knowledge. But this is the conclusion. And the conclusion was given in verse 3. Right? So these 4 slokas are very important. There is nothing beyond this, nothing more to search. You know? And this absolute truth is sarvatra sarvada. Sarvatra means it is omnipresent. And sarvada means in all the times, all circumstances. To unfold the mystery of Bhakti Yoga, as it is explained in the previous verse, is the ultimate stage of all inquiries, or the highest objective for the inquisitive. Everyone is searching after self-realization in different ways, like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Raja Yoga, by Bhakti Yoga, etc. To engage in self-realization is the responsibility of every living entity developed in consciousness. One who is developed in consciousness certainly makes inquiries into the mystery of the self, of the cosmic situation, and of the problems of life in all spheres and fields: social, political, economical, cultural, religious, moral, etc. And in their different branches. But here the goal of all such inquiries is explained. The Vedanta Sutra philosophy begins with this inquiry about life, and the Bhagavatam answers such inquiries up to this point, or the mystery of all inquiries. Lord Brahma wanted to be perfectly educated by the personality of Godhead, and here is the answer by the Lord, finished in 4 nutshell verses from Aham Eva Sam Eva Gre, Etavad Eva, that is right now, this verse. This is the end of all self-realization process. Men do not know that the ultimate goal of life is Vishnu, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Due to being bewildered by the glaring reflections in the darkness, and as such, everyone is entering into the darkest region of material existence, driven by the uncontrolled senses. The whole material existence has sprung up because of sense gratification, desire based principally on sex desire. And the result is that, in spite of all advancement of knowledge, the final goal of all the activities of the living entities is sense gratification. But a bona fide spiritual master. But here is the real goal of life, and everyone should know it by the inquiries put before the bona fide spiritual master, expert in the scriptures of Bhakti Yoga, or from the living personality of Bhagavatam life. Everyone is engaged in various. One who is imbued with such sincere inquiries must ask the bona fide spiritual master in the disciplic succession from Brahmaji, and that is the direction given here. Because the mystery was disclosed before Brahmaji by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the mystery of all such inquiries regarding the self-realization must be put before such a spiritual master, who is directly the representative of the Lord, acknowledged in the disciplic succession. Such a bona fide spiritual master is able to clear up the whole thing by evidence from the revealed scriptures, both direct and indirect. Although everyone is free to consult the revealed scripture in this connection, one still requires the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, and that is the direction in this verse. The bona fide spiritual master is the most confidential representative of the Lord, and one must receive direction from the spiritual master in the same spirit that Brahmaji received it from the personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. The bona fide spiritual master in that bona fide chain of disciplic succession never claims to be the Lord himself, although such a spiritual master is greater than the Lord in the sense that he can deliver the Lord by his personally realized experience. The Lord is not to be found simply by education or by good fertile brain, but surely he can be found by a sincere student through the transparent medium of the bona fide spiritual master. The revealed scriptures give directions directly to this end, but because the bewildered living entities are blinded by the glaring reflections in the darkness, they are unable to find the truth of the revealed scriptures. For example, the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, the whole direction is targeted towards the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. But for the want of a bona fide spiritual master in the line of Brahmaji or the direct hearer, Arjuna, there are different distortions of revealed knowledge by many unauthorized persons who just want to satisfy their own whims. Undoubtedly, the Bhagavad Gita is accepted as one of the most brilliant stars in the horizon of the spiritual sky, yet the interpretations of this great book of knowledge have so grossly been distorted that every student of Bhagavad Gita is still in the same darkness of glaring material reflections. Such students are hardly enlightened by Bhagavad Gita. In the Gita, practically the same instruction is imparted as in the 4 prime verses of Bhagavatam, but due to the wrong and fashionable interpretations by unauthorized persons, one cannot reach the ultimate conclusion. In the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter 61, first verse is clearly said, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrardhani mayaya. The Lord is situated in the heart of living beings as Paramatma, and He is controlling all of them in the material world under the agency of His external energy. Therefore, it is clearly mentioned that the Lord is the supreme controller and that the living entities are controlled by the Lord. In the same Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, 65th verse, the Lord directly directs as follows, Manmana bhava mad bhakta madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pradijani priyosi me. It is clear from this verse of Bhagavad Gita that the direction of the Lord is that one should be God-minded, a devotee of the Lord, a worshipper of the Lord and must offer all obeisances unto Lord Krishna. By so doing, the devotee will undoubtedly go back to Godhead, back to home. Indirectly, it is said that the whole Vedic social constructions of the human society is so made that everyone acts as part and parcel of the complete body of the Lord. The intelligent class of men or the Brahmanas are situated on the face of the Lord. The administrative class of men are Kshatriyas, are situated on the arms of the Lord. The productive class of men, the Vaishyas, are situated on the belt of the Lord, and the laborer class of men, the Shudras, are situated on the legs of the Lord. Therefore, the complete social construction is the body of the Lord. And all parts of the body, namely the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras, are meant to serve the Lord, the whole body conjointly. Otherwise, the parts become unfit to be coordinated with the supreme consciousness of oneness. Universal consciousness is factually achieved by coordinated service of all concerned to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that alone ensures total perfection. Therefore, even the great scientists and great philosophers and great mental speculators and great politicians and great industrialists and great social reformers, etc., cannot give any relief to the restless society of the material world, because they do not know the secret of success as mentioned in this verse of Bhagavatam, namely that one must know the mystery of Bhakti Yoga. And the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 15th verse, also it is said, Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradama maya pratagyana asuram bhavamasrita. Because the so-called great leaders of the human society are ignorant of the great knowledge of Bhakti Yoga and are always engaged in ignoble acts of sense gratification, bewildered by the external energy of the Lord, they are stubborn rebels against the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they never agree to surrender to Him because they are fools, miscreants, and the lowest type of human beings. Such faithless non-believers may be highly educated in the material sense of terms, but factually they are the greatest fools of the world, because by the influence of the external material nature, the so-called acquisition of knowledge has been made null and void. Therefore, all advancement of the knowledge in the present context of the things is being misused by the cats and dogs fighting with one another for sense gratification. And all the acquisition of knowledge in science, philosophy, fine arts, nationalism, economic development, religion, and great activities are being spoiled by being used as dresses for the dead man. There is no utility in the dresses used for covering a coffin of a dead body, save getting false applause from the ignorant public. The Srimad Bhagavatam therefore says again and again that without attainment of the status of Bhakti Yoga, of all the activities of human society are to be considered absolute failure only. It is said, Parabhavastavat abodhajato javanna jigyasam atma tattvam javat kriyastavat idam nobhi vai karmatmakam yenas sharir bandhanam. As long as one is blind to inquiring after self-realization, all material activities, however great they may be, are all different kinds of defeat, because the aim of human life is not fulfilled by such unwanted, profitless activities. The function of the human body is to attain freedom from the material bondage, but as long as one is fully absorbed in material activities, his mind will be overwhelmed in the whirlpool of matter, and thus he will continue to be engaged in material bodies life after life. एवं मनः कर्मं वशं प्रयुङ्क्ते अविद्यायात्मनि उपधीयमाने पतिर्न यावान् मयि वासुदेव प्रतिर्न यावान् मयि वासुदेवे न मुच्यते देह योगेन तावत्. It is one's mind that generates different kinds of bodies of suffering, different kinds of material pangs. And therefore, as long as the mind is absorbed in fruitive activities, the mind is understood to be absorbed in nishyans, and thus one is sure to be subjected to material bondage in different bodies again and again, until one develops a transcendental love for God, Head, Vasudeva, the Supreme Person. To become absorbed in transcendental name, quality, form and activities of the Supreme Person, Vasudeva, means to charge the temper of the mind from matter to absolute knowledge, which leads one to the path of absolute realization and thus frees one from the bondage of material contact and engagements in different material bodies. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada therefore comments on the words Sarvatra Sarvada in the sense that the principles of Bhakti Yoga or the devotional service to the Lord are apt in all circumstances. That is, Bhakti Yoga is recommended in all revealed scriptures. It is performed by all authorities and it is important in all places. It is useful in all causes and effects, etc. As far as all the revealed scriptures are concerned, he quotes from the Skanda Puran on the topic of Brahma and Narada as follows. Samsare asmin mahagore janma mrityu samakule pujanam vasudevasya tarakam vadibhi smritam. In the material world, which is full of darkness, of dangers, combined with birth and death, and full of different anxieties, the only way to get out of the great entanglement is to accept loving transcendental devotional service to Lord Vasudeva. This is accepted by all classes of philosophers. Srila Jiva Goswami also quotes another common passage which is found in three Puranas, namely the Padma Purana, Skanda Purana and Linga Purana. It runs as follows. Alodhya sarva shastrani vicharasya cha punah punah idam ekam sunipannam dhyeyo narayana sada. By scrutinizing, reviewing all the revealed scriptures and judging them again and again, it is now concluded that Lord Narayan is the Supreme Absolute Truth and thus He alone should be worshipped. The same truth is also indirectly described in the Garuda Purana as follows. Param gato api vedanam sarva shastrartha vedi api yona sarvaishvarya bhaktas tvam vidyat Purushardhamam, that lowest of mankind. Even though one may have gone to the other side of all the Vedas, and even though one is well versed in the revealed scriptures, if one is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, he must be considered the lowest of mankind. Similarly, it is also stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 18th chapter, 12th verse, indirectly as follows. Yasyati bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarva gunais tatra samasate suraha harava abhaktasya kuto mahad guna manorathena asati dhavato bahi. One who has unflinching devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead must have all the good qualities of the demigods. And contrarily, one who is not a devotee of the Lord must be hovering in the darkness of mental speculation and thus must be engaged in material impermanence. Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, 11th chapter, 18th verse says, Shabda Brahmani Nishnato na Nishnasyat Padevatyadi Shramastasya Shramapalo Hi Athunena Adhenum Eva Rakshataha. One may be well versed in all transcendental literature of the Vedas, but if he fails to be acquainted with the Supreme, then it must be concluded that all of his education is like the burden of a beast or one skipping a cow without milking capacity. Similarly, the liberty of discharging loving transcendental service to the Lord is invested in everyone. Even women, the Shudras, the forest tribes, and any other living entity born in sinful conditions. Te vai vidanti atiranti cha devamaya stri shudra hunasvara api papa jivaha yadi adbhut krama parayana shikas Tiryajana api kimu sruta dharanaye. That is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 7th chapter, 46th verse. The lowest of human being can be elevated to the highest stage of devotional life if they are trained by the bona fide spiritual master, well versed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. If the lowest can be so elevated, then what to speak of the highest, who are well versed in the Vedic knowledge. Similar verse is also there in Bhagavad Gita. That even those who are mamcha yo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate. But at the same time, there are the classes of the women Shudras. They can become elevated. Te yati parandati. Then kim punar brahmana. What to speak of those who are brahmana? They are sure on the path. So it all depends upon the spiritual master. Ultimate. Therefore Prabhupada concludes that the entire jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness is resting on the relationship between the Lord and the spiritual master. ISKCON is facilitating. They are not obstructing, but we have to go very systematically and very, very educated way. Without education, you will be drifted. So those who are taking up this education system offered in ISKCON, please take it to the heart and make my day. So, the conclusion is that the devotional service to the Lord is open for all, regardless of who they are. That is the confirmation of its application of all kinds of performances of service. Therefore, the devotional service of the Lord is perfect knowledge through the training of bona fide spiritual master is advised for everyone, even if one happens not to be a human being. This is confirmed in Garuda Purana as follows. Kita pakshi mriganam cha harav sanyasta chetasam urdhvam eva gatim manye kim punar janam nranam. Even the worms, the birds and beasts are assured of elevation to the highest perfection of life if they are completely surrendered to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So what to speak of the philosopher amongst the human beings? Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, Kita janma hau yathatu vadas bahirmukha brahma janmen nahiyash. Even if I take a birth in the species of worms, but let it be to serve the Lord, I don't mind. But I do not want the prestigious janma of Brahma if he is averse to your devotional service. That should not be. So you can imagine the conclusion of these 4 verses, and Prabhupada taking so much painstaking duty to impart perfection, and we should keep on going. Therefore, there is no need to seek properly qualified candidates for discharging devotional service to the Lord. Alright? Let them be either well behaved or ill trained. Let them be either learned or fools. Let them be either grossly attached or in the renounced ordered life, or let them be liberated soul or desirous of salvation. Let them be inexpert in the discharge of devotional service or expert in the same. All of them can be elevated to the supreme position by discharging devotional service under the proper guidance. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 30th, 31st and 32nd verses as follows. Api chet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag sadhurev hi samantavya samyak vyavasato hi saha mam cha hi partha vapasitra yesyu api papayonaya striyo vaishyas tatha sudras yete api antimat parangatim. Even if a person is fully addicted to all sorts of sinful acts, if he happens to be engaged in the loving transcendental service of the Lord under proper guidance, he is to be considered the most perfect holy man without a doubt. And thus any person, whatsoever and whosoever he or she may be, even the fallen women and less intelligent laborer and the dull mercantile man, or even a man lower than all this, can attain the highest perfection of life by going back home, back to Godhead, provided he or she takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord in all earnestness. This sincere earnestness is the only qualification that can lead one to the highest perfectional stage of life. And unless and until such real earnestness is aroused, there is a difference between cleanliness and or uncleanliness, learning or non-learning in material estimation. Fire is always fire, and thus if someone touches the fire knowingly or unknowingly, the fire will act in its own way without discrimination. The principle is Harir haranti papani dushta chittairapi smrataha. The all-powerful Lord can purify the devotee of all sinful reactions, and just as the sun can sterilize all sorts of infections by its powerful rays, attraction for material enjoyment cannot act upon a pure devotee of the Lord. There are hundreds and thousands of aphorisms in the revealed scriptures. Atmarams chamunaya. Even the self-realized soul are also attracted by the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana. Simply by hearing and chanting, one becomes a great devotee of the Lord Vasudeva. Na chalati bhagavat padaravinda lavanim nisha artam apicha vaishnavargyaha. A person who does not move from the lotus feet of the Lord, even for a moment or a second, is to be considered the greatest of all Vaishnavas. Bhagavati prasadam prapte matsevaya pratitamte. The pure devotees are convinced of the attaining of the association of the personality of Godhead, and thus they are always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, in all continents, in all planets, in all universes, devotional service to the Lord or Bhakti Yoga is current. And that is the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam and allied scriptures. Everywhere means in every part of the creation of the Lord. The Lord can be served by all the senses, or even simply by the mind. The South Indian Brahmana who served the Lord simply on the strength of his mind also factually realized the Lord. Success is guaranteed for a devotee who fully engages any one of his senses in the mode of devotional service. The Lord can be served by any ingredient, even the most common commodity, a flower, a leaf, a fruit, or a little water, which are available in any part of the universe and without cost. And thus the Lord is served universally by universal entities. He can be served simply by hearing. He can be served simply by chanting or reading about his activities. He can be served simply by adoring him and accepting him. In the Bhagavad Gita it is stated that one can serve the Lord by offering a fruit of one's own work. It does not matter what one does. Generally men say that whatever they are doing is inspired by God, but that is not all. One should actually work on behalf of God as a servant of God. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter 27th verse, Yad karoshi yadashnashi yad juhoshi dadasi yad tapasyasi kaunte tad kurushva madarpanam. Do whatever you like or whatever it may be easier for you to do. Eat whatever you may eat. Sacrifice whatever you can sacrifice. Give whatever you may give in charity. And do whatever you may undertake in penance. But everything must be done for him only. If you do business or you accept some employment, do so on behalf of the Lord. Whatever you may eat, you may offer the same to the Lord and be assured that he will return the food after eating it himself. He is completely whole and therefore whatever he may eat is offered by the devotees, accepted because the devotees love, but again it is returned as prasad for the devotee that can be happy by eating. In other words, be a servant of God and live peacefully in that consciousness, ultimately returning home back to Godhead. And it is said in the Skanda Purana, Yasya smritya nacha namaloktya namoktya tapoyagya kridaishu nunam samurpanantam iti sadyo bande tam achyutam. I offer my obeisances unto to him, the infallible, because simply by either remembering him or vibrating his holy name, one can attain perfection of all penances, sacrifice, or fruitive activities, and this process can be universally followed. It is enjoined in Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 3rd chapter, 10th verse. Akama sarvakamo va moksha kama udarhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajatam purusham varam. Although a person be full of desires or have no desires, he may follow this path of infallible bhakti yoga for complete perfection. One need not be anxious to propitiate each and every demigod and goddesses because the root of all of them is the personality of Godhead. As by pouring water on the root of the tree, one serves and enlivens all the branches and leaves. So by rendering service unto the Supreme Lord, one automatically serves every god and goddesses without extraneous effort. The Lord is all-pervading, and therefore service unto him is also all-pervading. This fact is corroborated in Skanda Purana as follows. Archite devat deveshe shankh chakra gadadhare architah sarva devasyur yatah sarva gato hari. When the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, who carries his hand in hand a conchial wheel, a club, and lotus flower, is worshipped, certainly all the demigods are worshipped automatically because Hari, the personality of Godhead, is all-pervading. Therefore, in all cases, namely nominative, objective, causative, dative, ablative, possessive, and supportive, everyone is benefited by such transcendental loving service to the Lord. The man who worships the Lord. the Lord Himself who is worshipped, the cause for which the Lord is worshipped, the source of supply, the place where such worship is done, etc. Everything is benefited by such an action. Even during the annihilation of the material world, the process of bhakti yoga can be applied. Kalena nashta pralaye viniyam. The Lord is worshipped in devastation because He protects the Vedas from annihilation. He is worshipped in every millennium or yuga. As it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, 3rd chapter and 52nd verse, Krite yadhyayato vishnum tretayam yajato mukhay dvapare paricharyayam kalo kadhari kirtanad. And the Vishnu Purana it is read, Sahanistan mahachidram sa moha sa cha vibramah yan muhurtam kshanam vapi vasudevam na chintayet. Even for a moment, a remembrance of Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is missed, that is the greatest loss. That is the greatest illusion and that is the greatest anomaly. The Lord can be worshipped in all stages of life. For instance, even in the wombs of their mother, Maharaj Prahlad, the Maharaj Parikshit worshipped the Lord. When in his every childhood at the stage of early 5 years, Dhruv Maharaj worshipped the Lord. Even in full youth, Maharaj Ambrish worshipped the Lord. And even at the last stage of frustration and old age, Maharaj Dhritarashtra worshipped the Lord. Ajamil worshipped the Lord even at the point of death. And Chitraketu worshipped the Lord even in the heaven and in hell. In the Nrsimha Purana it is said that the hellish inhabitants began to chant the holy name of the Lord. They began to elevate from hell towards heaven. The Rasa Muni has also supported this view. Muchyeta yannamni udito narake. Simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, the inhabitants of hell became released from their hellish persecution. So the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam, as given by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit, is Etan nirvidyamananam ichchatam akuto bhayam yoginam nirpa nirnitam harer namanu kirtanam. O king, it is finally decided that everyone, namely those in the renounced order of life, the mystics and the enjoyers of pretty works, should chant the holy name of the Lord fearlessly to achieve the desired success in their pursuit. This is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, 11th verse, Maharaj Parikshit's question, which has been through the previous questions of sages of Naimisharanya to Sutta Goswami. In that line, when Maharaj Parikshit asked, what is the ultimate duty of a person who is about to die? This is the conclusion. So, similarly, as indicated indirectly in various places in the revealed scriptures, even though one is well versed in all the Vedas and scriptures, if one is not a devotee of the Lord, the personality of Godhead, he is considered to be the lowest of mankind. In the Garuda Purana, Brihadaradi Purana and Padma Purana, the same is repeated. What is the use of Vedic knowledge and finances for one who is devoid of devotional service to the Lord? What is the comparison of thousands of Prajapati to one devotee of the Lord? Sukadeva Swami said in Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 4th chapter, 17th verse, that neither the ascetic nor one who is greatly munificent, nor one who is famous, nor the great philosopher, nor the great occultist, nor anyone else can achieve the desired result without being engaged in service of the Lord. Even if a place is more glorious than heaven, if there is no glorification of the Lord in Vaikuntha or his pure devotee, it is considered, it should be at once be quitted. One should get out from that place. The pure devotees refuses to accept all the 5 different types of liberation in order to be engaged in the service of the Lord. The final conclusion, therefore, is that the glories of the Lord must be always and everywhere proclaimed. No one should hear about the glories. One should chant about His glories, or one should always remember His glories, because that is the highest perfection of stage of life. As far as pratibhak is concerned, it is limited to an enjoyable body. As far as yoga is concerned, it is limited to acquirement of mystic power. As far as the empiric philosopher is concerned, it is limited, empiric philosophy is concerned, it is limited to the attainment of transcendental knowledge. And as far as transcendental knowledge is concerned, it is limited to attainment of salvation. Even if they are adopted, there is every chance of discrepancies in discharging the particular type of functions. But adoption of the transcendental devotional service of the Lord has no limit, nor is there fear of falling down. The process automatically reaches the final stage by the grace of the Lord. In the primary stage of devotional service, there is an apparent requisite for knowledge. But in the higher stage, there is no necessity of such knowledge. In the best and guaranteed path of the process is therefore engagement in Bhakti Yoga, the pure devotional service. The cream of Srimad Bhagavatam in the foregoing 4 verse slokas is sometimes squeezed out by the impersonalists for the different interpretation in their favor. But it should be carefully noted that the 4 slokas were first described by the personality of Godhead Himself, and thus the impersonalist has no scope to enter into them, because he has no conception of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, the impersonalist may squeeze out any interpretation from them, but such interpretation will never be accepted by those who are taught in the disciplic succession from Brahma. As will be cleared up in the following verses, besides that, the Shruti confirms that the Supreme Absolute Truth, personality of Godhead, never reveals Himself to anyone who is falsely proud of his academic knowledge. The Shruti mantra clearly says in Kathopanishad, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, 23rd verses, Nayam atma pravachena nalabhyo na medaya na bahuna srutena yam eva brunute ram evesha virunate tena labhyas tasyesha atma brunute tanuswam. The whole matter is explained by the Lord Himself, and one who has no approach to the Lord in his personal feature can rarely understand the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam without being taught by the Bhagavatas in disciplic succession. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. My God. Is there any question? Huh? Is there any question? Yes.
In one of the explanations, I mean, it was clear that devotional service is pure, it is like the sun, it is purifying.
But why? The reasons have been given.
Yes.
The quotations are given.
Yes.
And all the inferences, conclusions, Prabhupada put up just like a lawyer, not a liar.
Right.
It's a lawyer.
So
We are lawyers too, and we have to always protect the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Absolute Truth, it is not ambiguous. Yes. So
the question, Maharaj, was that it was explained that even if somebody is engaged in even if somebody is addicted to sinful activities, but they're engaged in devotional service of the Lord, they can be elevated also. Not elevated,
They can be considered sadhus.
sadhus. So the question is, where do the 4 regulative principles of ISKCON come into it.
Just to expedite in human form of life. While you have come across that in the beginning, some primary knowledge about the distinction of transcendence is required in order to become fixed in pure devotional service. Now, what is that? Are they qualified for even the primary knowledge? Anybody can be qualified, but Christianity does not teach that. Just to believe. Now, if you believe simply, do you think you are in knowledge? Belief system is distinct from the knowledgeability. What do they verbatim say? They completely say agnostically, oh, you do not know Jesus? Oh, means you don't have faith in Jesus? He said he is the only way to go back home. It means if you don't follow Jesus, you are doomed. But what is the teaching of the Jesus? He tried, but his own people killed him. Now what kind of knowledge they have? They never took him as their spiritual master even. Now they want to impose on the world that Jesus is the Lord. Even Jesus will say, no, our Father in the heaven. They are so much close-minded that actually there is no life of devotion flowing in it. It's a show. It's a show. The whole Catholic Church is facing this problem. And they do not insist on 4 regulative principles. All the 4 regulative principles are broken at the priest level. Father knows the best. Better than none. These are the advertisement to promote wine, and they have big sellers of wine and intoxicants. Don't get intoxicated in public, but you can in private. The Lord knows you. But then when they are getting exposed, then they are in the same line of a fallible person. But they have not begun the devotional service yet.
And my specific question was referring to ISKCON. That,
4 regulative principles are principles of liberation. You require liberation from the modes of material nature, and these 4 principles, if you are guaranteed. Because Kali started taking refuge in, and he was given refuge by Parikshit Maharaj, knowingly. He doesn't despise Kali, but he challenged Kali. Because in front of pure devotee, such things cannot exist. So they have to be sheltered in certain activities which are detrimental for the progress. So if we remain in bodily conception of life all the time, then how can you enter into the intricacies of pure devotional service? So primary education is given through following 4 regulative principles automatically. Because the subject matter of the Supreme Lord, as taught by Brahma, is Vishuddha Sattva. Come to the platform of Sattva. Give up the platform of Rajas and Tamas. Be sober. No, fun-loving people. They rebel against the teachings of the church even, and because their mode of passion and ignorance is not controllable. Even a father cannot. Simply by going on Saturday to confess, in front of Father and start doing the business in the same previous way on Sunday onwards. Prabhupada comments on this. You know, Bhagavatam teaches this. Matim na Krishne swataha parato va mikthopi patyeta graha vratanam. As long as you are in material life, you are graha vrata. So adanta gobihi vishatanta nisham punah punascharitam charvana. Adanta gobihi, because unbridled senses are supposed to be knowledge acquiring senses, and because the senses get cheated for the original knowledge of the Absolute through our five senses, we can perceive why we are engaging in the service of the senses in the master of service. It's quite congenial. Otherwise, sense gratification. More the sense gratification is there, more you go against. So, 4 regulative principles are prescribed how to control these senses. And therefore, the Vedic Dharma stands on following these 4 principles. The 4th one is of the absolute truth, also getting hurt by these interpretations of Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada chops everybody. You know, in every possible way. I mean, this purport Prabhupada is putting up in so much, sequences. Sequence never make a consequence. But it proves, the victory of glorification of the Lord. Bhagavatam is not a consequential science. Christians say that if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, the consequences will follow. But these are the consequences they have to be, accepted. Consequences means the reverses, or what we call the reactions. But they happen to be only on the bodily platform. But what about the ignorance of the soul? Even though one is being punished automatically, whether they agree or not, that this is the only life, the Christian says, you do not know your previous life, why do you buy? And this is the only life to live. But then why do you involve Jesus to take him back to Godhead? That means there is another kind of life is still there. But they have no tangible answer. Jesus Christ told them, you have yet to know so many things, but you are not qualified. Means qualification is attained only after liberating from the 3 modes of material nature. Therefore, 4 regulative principles are very important. You got the answer.
It is said that all 4 varnas are very important in the society. Sudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Brahmana. So then, why should Sudras or Vaishyas should be educated so that they will get elevated? Because
No. In Varnashram system, those who have not very much developed intelligence, they are other than the Shudras. A Shudra can be intelligent, but at the same time, Mam hi partha vyapasritya. All these sections are vyapasritya, means they are dependent. Asritya, but Vishesh Asritya is Vipashritya. Viyapi. So, they are especially, they have to be spared because they are dependent. And those also, those who are papayoni, ye mam partha vyapasritya koma. Right? Then another is papayoni. Ye mam partha vyapasritya syu papayonaya. Another category, partner. Then Striya, Vaishya, Tatha Shudra. These are higher categories. Some people interpret they are all sinful people. But that is not. Otherwise, in eyes of Krishna, Yesu, Yanti Parangati, they also can attain. So, not a single devotee can be told, oh, you cannot go back home, back to God. In any condition, one can perform devotional service. Kolavecha Srita. He was living in dark poverty simply by selling banana leaves. And the cost of banana leaves is so, because banana leaves are available everywhere in Bengal. And yet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go and tease him and stealing or underpaying him. But he was so contented by looking at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sridhar will argue, why are you cheating me? Give me enough. No, you don't need. Okay. One day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to his home. The hut was totally in shambles. Water will fall in, yet he was living in there. Generally in Bengal there is a, there is a trough made up of clay and contains water. So when one enters in, because they walk open barefooted, so they wash their feet and then enter in that hut. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went and started drinking that water. And Sita said, oh no, oh my God, I'm going to hell. Sure. Why are you sending me to hell by doing this? Right? In this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would capture the heart because he would not forget this little boy. He would earn only few paise. And yet he would use 50% in service of Mother Ganges, worshipping. Right? And then he would maintain himself. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he did Mahaprakash Leela at Advaita Acharya's home, he was summoning and disturbing everybody. And he called Sridhar, hey, go and get that Sridhar. And when Sridhar heard, he was mortified. Oh my God, he's going to cheat me again. Sridhar is meditating on seemingly negative aspect. He was fearful. But now, he said, no, what did I do that why he's calling me? I have to go, okay. So he went and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced and glorified Sridhar's renunciation. He was a pure devotee. So, anybody can worship. Only thing is that as long as we have an enmity, envious, which is epitomized by desires other than the Lord. So how much we have to concentratedly think in each and every aspect of our life. Gradually, we have to intensify this loving devotional service in each and every aspect. Not all of a sudden. Manage. Krishna has given it, but always increase. Increments are there. This is our wealth and loving service of the Lord. It's not temporary, time being or conditioned. Unconditional devotional service. That is called spontaneous devotional service. Unconditional. Anyapilashita. That is unconditional. Ahaituki apratihata. That is called spontaneous devotional service. So, but it is very enlivening to read the purpose of Srila Prabhupada. Can you imagine how much heart he has put in his conclusive remarks? Bhagavatam has not begun yet. It is just the beginning with the conclusion. Who would write this elaborate purport? From every corner and possible argument, Prabhupada is presenting. From all different, branches of knowledge, social, political, or everything, in any condition, simply glorify the Lord. Because He is accessible. Children can glorify. Right from the womb. Because He is the life giver, and the life and life giver has an eternal connection. Artificially, by our enviousness, we separate ourselves. That is not. Even we try to come closer, but we cannot conclude that jnana, yoga, because the conclusions of the jnana is merging in impersonal, that is ill-cooked results. Yogis get trapped into the siddhis. That is also a misdirected goal. So in this way we see, unless and until we come to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that does not give any perfection. Perfection will never come. So, that is the nirnitam or concluded. Nirnitam means concluded. When you conclude something, the case is rest. And perfection will be there. So, Srila Prabhupada, in the beginning, he describes the importance of spiritual master and what are the obligations of spiritual master. He has to grow in his commitment. It's not simply to come and give lectures and go away, but he has to constantly think of Lord Krishna, invest in perfectness, that facility is given to the spiritual master in making, like what they call every instructing spiritual master then will take on further the responsibility of initiating. Then eventually they will have to develop themselves up to the Uttam Adhikari level by total investment of their entire consciousness at the lotus feet of the Lord. And there you can't afford even some part, oh, can I have a vacation, Prabhu? No vacation. It's a 24/7 multiplied by as long as you live. And you are living eternally. So you can put multiplied by n. Right. Any other question? Yes.
So 926, when you say Yat Kuroshi, whatever you do, whatever you eat, offer it to me as formula, that can be very easily interpreted by non-devotees as if I'm eating meat or if I'm doing illicit activities. In this shloka, Krishna says, as long as I connect with him and offer to him for my activities, he will come save me. How do we present this more appropriately?
Right. But would be an immaturity you cannot do. In immaturity you cannot do. Why? Because lack of knowledge of pure devotional service and following the four regulative principles means to come out from the lower modes of material nature to the higher modes. So how can lower mode is going to help you to become Krishna? You are talking hypothetical, but it's a wishful thinking. Hypothesis or the theory has to be proven by practical. It is extremely difficult to worship the Lord in opposite currents.
So the argument would be, Prabhuji,
No,
Maharaj.
but at the same time, let me tell you, there are incidences. When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj sent two senior disciples of his, Bon Maharaj and Chaitanya Gaudiya Math's,
Sridas,
no, the one who established the Chaitanya Math.
Keshav. Keshav?
No. Anyway, he was and he was one of the contender who wanted to become, head of the mutt, and Prabhupada also wanted to seek some shelter, but at the same time he wanted his books to be published, and Chaitanya Math was the only one that has the facility. But other senior devotees were objecting him to be the head of what? The name is there, but anyway, very famous name, because he was one of the most senior devotees. After that, Sridhar Maharaj is maybe second or third or whatever it is. Nobody helped Prabhupada, right? But he was sent, and Bon Maharaj was sent by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj to England and Germany to start preaching. Prabhupada is not the first one. And at that time, they had hard time, difficulties. And they were targeting only the wealthy people. Right? And there are scholars and everything, but they were understanding the importance of becoming Brahmana. Alright? And because they are all meat eaters, they had hard time to convince them. They said, please make us Brahmana, but we can't give up meat. Yeah? And they would communicate with Bhaktisiddhanta in India, and they don't have even support system. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj used to send money for their support and preach. Huh? And they can't make devotees because they wanted to become cheap Brahmins. And when they started complaining, oh, they can't become Brahmanas because they don't want to give up meat. So Bhakti Siddhanta told them, then offer meat to Krishna and feed them. And Srila Prabhupada also once upon a time in Germany especially, maybe Devamurti Maharaj can tell because he was there, and Prabhupada sent a straight to him. Are you willing to take the responsibility of feeding me? Yes, feed them, but make them devotee. Agya Sukruti, Kara. Let them do. So, it is not general practice. But then Prabhupada said, put Gaurnita even in a meat eater's house and tell them to chant Hare Krishna. If they are so much attached to eat meat, permit them. Bengal was so much infested. Ramakrishna mission has taken so much toll that everybody was eating chicken and this and that. That's why Prabhupada calls it Murgi mission. Murgi mission. Right? It's so much rampant there. Even Prabhupada's own sister, Bhavtarini, Pishima, she took initiation. She was a great Vaishnavi and Prabhupada adored her. But her husband was a meat eater and she had to cook for him. And Prabhupada said, no, Krishna will take care. So, there are certain circumstances, in Fiji especially, these things are very rampant. But regardless, we tell them, chant Hare Krishna. In India, it is rampant. Meat eating is so much becoming rampant. Do you think we will stop midday meal programs because government is introducing eggs along with your midday meal to the children all over India? All ISKCON centers who are doing the midday meal and offer with, I don't know, mechanical love, because all the mechanics are there now to produce and feed people, children, in millions now, altogether. And they will be forced to eat meat also. Eggs, then they will introduce meat. Kali Yuga is there. But a devotee who takes the risk, at any cost, even Nityanand Prabhu and Haridas Thakur went in the house of Jagai and Madhai, and we are told not to go, but they went. So, at what extent they were the original preachers and convicted to the power of the holy name. We can't imitate is one thing. Imitation is not. But it does not justify the rules and regulations. How long one is going to eat meat? He is a meat himself. Kali Yuga is not going to spare. After 10,000 years, then this Renaissance period of Bhakti movement is going to disappear. Ellen Ginsberg is asking Srila Prabhupada, what will happen after 10,000? He says, well, There will be no Hare Krishna, no ISKCON, no my books will not be there. You know. Then what? You eat me and I will eat you. You kill me and I will kill you. In 10,000 years. But then rest of the Kali Yuga, oh my God. It will become a planet of uninhabitable. So, but it is very enlivening to see in all this purport Srila Prabhupada is beating up everything in so much evidence. In conclusion, with reference to context, every aspect he is covering. Isn't it the glorification of the Lord Himself? Krishna Shakti Vinanahita. This is, if you read, you are empowered. If you meditate on this purport of the last one and the Chatusloki Bhagavatam, it will convince anybody to become a devotee.
Which Chaitanya devotee was Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Maharaj?
Eh?
Bhakti Vilas
Vilas Tirtha Maharaj, Bhakti Vilas Tirtha Maharaj. You know, they could make few devotees, and they were so much, glorified only by bringing them to India, 2-3 of them. That's all. But regardless, the extreme situation is arising, and we find it difficult because we don't have faith or we do not have conviction on the pure devotional service. That's why we left. So we have to intensify the devotion. Wherever we are, akamava sarvakamaihi mokshakama udarahi tivrena bhakti yogena yajata purushantara. Is our bhakti becoming tivra, or it is simply one way or to live in the material world? So that is the... Then when we start with this premise, then we'll see, oh my God, how much entangled I am and how much work I have to do to descend. But never be afraid. The power of pure devotion can be so much spontaneously pushing us. So, what is spontaneous devotion? Who asked that question yesterday?
Rishikesh.
Huh?
Rishikesh. He is not here.
Okay. So, it is very clear. Devotional service is not that superfluous. People object if you chant Hare Krishna right from your home. Then how much grossest ignorance the objector has. They can't tolerate you and to keep the beer bag in your hand even. Okay, if you get ashamed, fine, clicker. But that also not good. Hey, what are you doing chanting mumbo jumbo, huh? As if it is abnormal behavior. So, but they don't understand that Yayatma suprasidati. The self will be satisfied. Savai punsam paro dharmo yato bhakti ratokshide ahetuki apratihata Yayatma suprasidati. So the recommendation in getting the answers, Srimad Bhagavatam, thus becomes perfect guide and cultivating pure devotional service. No other Shastra can come in competition. So, yes.
So I'll talk to you later. Maharaj, I'm not going to seek any answers at this stage, but I would like to share with you. I was going to do it in one-to-one basis, but there are some senior devotees here and they might help me in the process as well. I would like to share with you my observation and my experience, and humbly pray that you seriously consider that and probably address that at the Sunday feast. I was even in the mood of writing to the GVC about this issue as well. My observation, Maharaj, in recent years is that, and when you were talking, when you were reading on the Veds, there are a number of places, I don't know how many times there was emphasis of service, service and service. But when you look at our community today, the devotee community, it is becoming a real concern from my point of view, and like I said, it is probably just my point of view. But there are a number of things which is really concerning me, Maharaj, when it comes to service. We were at Christchurch Temple opening, 3-day program, and there were quite a few devotees from all over the place there. Some senior and some obviously local devotees as well. And for the entire 3 days, Maharaj, when we were there, people were happy to chant their rounds, and when they were doing, it's up to them, or sit in the kirtan and things like that. But when it came to actual service, on all 3 days, Ramanuja and his wife, at the end, were mopping the floors, cleaning the kitchen, and they were doing all the nitty-gritty work, when most of the devotees that were there were simply not bothered at all. When you observe today, even in the devotee community, I appreciate that we have to chant 16 rounds, and how you are doing it rounds is depending. You have been emphasizing for the last 3 days that in the morning time is the time to do. How many are doing is obviously up to them, whether they can make the time or not. But when you look at the service and the commitment from our devotees, it is becoming a real concern, because we are now producing a community. I had a school teacher in my high school days, and his common term was nincompoop. What the term really means is that we are producing a society of some useless people in the true regard, because my observation is that when it comes to, they are so engrossed that every time you ask them question, or that service mood is simply lacking there in our devotee community. In Mayapur, in the kitchens and in the gardens, everyone who is working there is not a devotee. They are paid people. They have got 700 acres of land there, which is not getting cultivated because our devotees don't have the desire or to work hard or to contribute. Govinda's restaurant in Mumbai has got 65 staff, and of them, majority of them are paid people from outside. So my question is, Maharaj, and I would humbly request you to address this probably on Sunday feast is what are we creating? Are we creating now people who are, we call them so-called devotees, who are okay, fine, chanting 16 rounds and studying Srimad Bhagavatam and the Shastras and things like that, but they are becoming good for nothing. A simple example, Maharaj, is, my personal observation here is that We have now got quite a few taxi drivers. If they have to wake up 4 o'clock in the morning to take a job, they are fine. But for Mangal Aarti, they don't have time. Radha asked me, we had 3 people in the temple. We used to have Mangal Aarti on Saturday mornings where the congregation was coming. For the last year or so, there is no one here except the devotee, the pujari. Where are they? What are they doing? What sort of commitment they have? If you ask them, I'm too busy doing my Bhakti Sastri course, I'm too busy doing this, I'm too busy doing... Our own temple, in our temple, the ashram, there are devotees who are staying here. They are getting... How many of them are sitting here at the moment? Where are they? Either sleeping or doing something. So, I have addressed these issues time and time again and try to encourage as much as... Maybe the fault lies in me, maybe my leadership is not good enough. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. But despite number of times talking to the devotees and making them realize that, look, chanting 16 rounds and studying the Shastras is very, very important, but at the same time, service is important. Just have a look outside, Maharaj. It's all overgrown with grass now. If Jagjivan is not going to cut that grass is not going to be cut. So what are we creating? Why are we creating a society of useless people? What good is it? How is it going to help? In solving the problems that we are facing? How can we make our devotees realize that yes, service is, as far as I'm concerned, again I'm talking only on my behalf. As far as I'm concerned, for me, service is everything.
We came across with one of the situations, and Srila Prabhupada expresses, never mind. Whoever at what level one is existing with what ideology, we do not see their external background, but if they start worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they have every hope to become perfect. Alright? And go back to Godhead. The idea is that there are two situations in ISKCON as far as. One is an organizational structure, and the second thing is the devotional structure. Devotion is voluntary. Organization is not supposed to be voluntary. You can't force a devotional aspect of one, but organizational structure has to be disciplined. As far as organization is concerned, most of the temples enter into a crash management situation because of the lack of proper organization, proper oversight, proper leadership, so many causes may be there, right? But because the movement is spiritual, ISKCON is his body, Prabhupada's body, and to keep the body healthy, it's very difficult. All right, you have to keep on constant changing this way, that way. It is trial and error. When we goofed off at such a down level as far as the organizational structure was there, the GBC had to take the blame and reform. When they become agreeable to get reform for the betterment of Srila Prabhupada's future, then this process started. Say about 80 years back, after Burke Rochefort's report came, they engaged him to go around and get the feelings of what the devotees need so they can do better. So that process has already begun. It is good fortune. Otherwise, they are comparing as an organizational structure with Catholic Church, which is about more than 2,000 years old, and it's a solid organization but there are a lot of glitches still, and they suffer a lot by prestige. But they have started messing up with the doctrine. Alright? But at least we cannot do, because Prabhupada, through the order of his spiritual master, is telling about the organizational structure which is very important to exist in the material world with a united way. So the governing body commission is his brainchild, or brainchild of his Guru Maharaj, but he was the only one to implement. Even Narayan Maharaj could not implement. If he would have been taking the similar ideology of Bhakti Siddhanta, but no. So only empowered personalities, and then when we try to think of Srila Prabhupada and his desires, in his purpose he writes about ISKCON and the ideology that we are supposed to implement. Now, Prabhupada left and everybody was an infant, rudderless. Even these cardinal principles, so they stuck to it. Others were rebellious and they drifted away. It's important that ISKCON is existing and people are wondering, oh my God, it is still existing, right? So we should have a positive lookout, all right? But at the same time, remain hopeful to get into the knowledge and realization aspect of the importance of the process, all right? After all, the process starts from voluntary action. You can't force anybody. All right? So, the process is perfect, and process itself we have to depend upon. Okay? The spiritual process, Prabhupada said, I may be imperfect, but the process I follow is perfect. So, the process of devotional service, we can't budge in. There are very protective measures that Srila Prabhupada has taken, even if it meant for against his godbrothers. You know that.
Yes.
So, on the strength of Srila Prabhupada's instruction, we have to develop this. Now, those who are organizers, they are also gurus, they are also jigis, they are also sannyasis, also multiple heads make them completely, half-cooked. So in organizational structure, there will be only responsibility will be there. They are like trustees, not of the property, but of the organization. And they will have certain duties. Prabhupada appointed them to do multiple tasks. And because of limitations, Madhyamadhikari may show some limitations. Uttamadhikari is not cared for an organizational structure. People follow him, But the GBCs have to follow the leaders and opinions and this and that, and then they have to manage. The current should be other way around, but they are facing multiple tasks. They are sober, thoughtful people, communicative as far as possible, but at the same time, the immense power structure is invested in them. It's as good as the king of that particular land in our own, what you call, realm of Krishna consciousness. The power can corrupt them too. We have examples So, in Growing Institute, say 50-year-old, right? 50-year-old. And they always compare with the Catholic Church, 2,000-year-old. And yet they are dwindling and they have all the blames to take. But in the infant years of our growth, we can't give up the hope of Srila Prabhupada's dream, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dream. So, if we are determined, we'll go ahead without all this, hangovers. Hangovers will pull us back, will discourage us. So, we have to create the broader approach. ILS is for that. It's good that you are coming, but these problems are everywhere, even in well-established temples. Even well-established temples. Some are, to be ideal means to be worth following. But nonetheless, there are so many things. And we have to learn, even at the expense of our dignity, our faithfulness to Srila Prabhupada. We have to tolerate, because after all, it's a united effort. Alone we cannot do. Nobody is empowered as a special person. No. Empowerment is there, but then as soon as you dissociate with Prabhupada's desires, then out. We sever our own self from the main body. So like that. So the idea of globalization is not a lofty idea, because our movement, even though we desire or not desire, it is pushing further and further. Pushing and pushing further. On the other behalf, where if it's only an issue of sense gratification, all those Ram Rahim and this, you can see they abuse the property of the Lord so much. But then it is karma that boomerangs. But if the devotees are becoming karma free, karmani nirdhati kintucha bhakti bhajan, we have to simply push up our bhakti by invigorating, explanations of Srila Prabhupada's purpose. Suppose if Prabhupada's purpose are not there, can you imagine what would have been? We had no locus standi. The purpose of Srila Prabhupada has helped so many lives to come from the gutter. Prabhupada's instruction. They are supposed to be for next 10,000 years. Oh, you may think, why should we create this useless, following? But then what will happen? Create. It is meant for creation. So go along with the flow of advancement in consciousness. So we can manage spiritually rather than materially. Alright? Of course, both have to be. But if it is favoring to Lord Krishna and Prabhupada's prestige, everything is accepted. That's called reasonability, isn't it? But we can't hold the flow. Bhakti is having tremendous force like Ganges flowing. Who can check? And this is forecasted. So who can check? Even Reformation are not going to check. People have ideas of Reformation. Even they wanted to institute Japa reform and Guru reform. Swami Maharaj wrote books on it. Huh? But we are facing the same problem. Because it is voluntary and we have to boost up voluntary participation. Voluntary participation. Okay? But we have to boost up by showing the Apani Acharite Sikhailo Bhagavad Dharma. But we should not get frustrated because it's the right path. When nobody helped Srila Prabhupada, do you think Prabhupada was discouraged? They tried to discourage him. But he had unflinching faith on his Guru's words. So he created an empire unparalleled, from nothing. If you want to see the miracle, we are living, we are the products of that miracle. Huh? We are the products of this miracle. How can we ignore and go back to somersault into the material problems? But we need to make a spiritual management. That Prabhupada's desire is there, not crash management. So we have to improvise, we have to empower, we have to take up the willingness of the devotees and utilize and organize in such a way. But alone we cannot do, we can do with very cooperative mood. If we love Srila Prabhupada, we have to cooperate. We may have right to give our opinion, right? But still, it requires cooperation, not disassociation. That is the... And you are coming for ILS. Anybody else is coming for ILS? In Mayapur, ISKCON Leadership Sangha, every 2 years, is happening for about 1 week or so. Come and see and understand from all different angles the situation, and if you have enthusiasm to give some positive input, by learning, and if you have some experience in your field of activity, then everything can be utilized. In establishing Daivi Varnashram system, how many angles have not been yet covered? But since that initiative has started about now 8 years back or so, things are progressing, and it is not to only local temple. It is oriented to universal application about the glories of Srila Prabhupada and systematic education system. So we should become enthusiastic to understand the higher and higher truths and practical, that what is needed so we can apply it. Yeah.
Right, again, this is Ramanuja's way, which I am repeating. He's basically saying that at the moment in ISKCON, especially our sannyasis, are giving too much emphasis on chanting and reading, and not even emphasis on sevis. He's even gone to the extent where when he's now getting visitors to Christchurch, his clear instruction is to the sannyasis, which is wrong as far as I'm concerned, because sannyasis have the independence of our leaders have the independence of saying whatever is right. But his instruction is very clear. I don't want the emphasis on chanting and reading. I want the emphasis on service. Because service is what which is keeping the temple going, and not chanting and just reading. So this is
chanting
this way.
is the service.
But chanting is not going to...
No, chanting will not consume more than 2 hours. So give your 22 hours.
Agreed, Maharaj.
But Prabhupada was very clever. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, ordered 64 rounds. And devotees were, preaching, expanding, powerful devotional service is rendered by chanting 64 rounds. But physically they will be exhausted. Right? So, when he came to the West, Srila Prabhupada, he saw, that there is no possibility for them to chant 64 rounds and do nothing. They don't know anything. So, okay, according to time and the circumstances prevailing, I have to develop a society of the practitioners in pure devotional service. Prabhupada never compromised with the principles, but he made a detailed adjustment. He was so clever that he asked only 16 rounds to chant. But then engaged the full-time devotees in 8 hours of compulsory services. 8 hours. So actually, 64 rounds will consume it only 8 hours. But Prabhupada got 10 hours of service. Put a punching card system. But when we develop better, so all these things are to be organized. Service is to be rendered. And that is the agreement. The service should consume 8 hours minimum. Monday to, say, Friday. Okay. But then make adjustment. Outside is 40 hours minimum in this way. But at the same time, over time. But the idea is that in spiritual management, developing love of Godhead is voluntary. Alright? Developing Godhead is voluntary. But at the same time, in hierarchical structure, of management, we also take inspiration from corporate world. I was talking about showing that the geese. Everybody may be knowing who are working. But they are the real training and real inspiration. But we can convert that into Krishna consciousness also. We need that. We need to support the leader. And that is, expected. It's a faithful service. Like that. So, I don't know, where am I supposed to show that?
It's on Monday.
On Monday. Or about when okay, whatever it is. So at a unit level, this is applicable to a larger unit too. Whoever it is. We are flocks of the bird. We are of the same feather, devotional feather. So we have to flock together. Anyway, anything else? If one takes the whole day to chant his rounds and make it an alibi not to do essential services, then he will dwindle. He will dwindle. It's not fun. But after all, because he has taken Krishna consciousness overall as a voluntary thing, we can request and we can say. But when more and more are going to participate, the needs of the temple will remain small. So naturally, others say, oh no, people are there, why should I go? And this happens especially in the festivals. So, if we organize better, even the crew, what we call, the crew has to be glorified also at this service. Everybody needs glorification of the self. But we reward, we do reciprocate in certain way. Nobody needs, those who are devotees, they don't need their own glorification. But at the same time, we need to boost their morale so they can be helpful more and more. Now, if they are showing this complaisances, what to speak of spontaneous devotional service? It is a far-fetched idea, It means we have to educate them properly. Real devotional service starts only after liberation, not before.
Thank you, madam.
Yes. Anybody? Okay. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. His Holiness Vedavyasapriyya Swami Maharaj.
Jai.